What's up, guys? Thanks for checking out Part of the Problem. This episode was recorded at Zany's Nashville last night in front of a live audience. It was a great time. Thanks to everybody who came out. Unbelievable time out there in Nashville. Of course, if you want to get this episode first, ad-free, uncensored, you got to go over to partoftheproblem.com. That's where you can sign up and support the show. All of our shows stream to partoftheproblem.com first. And then, of course, on Thursday, there's the members-only show that only streams at partoftheproblem.com. All the other episodes will be posted to YouTube and Spotify and all the other places. But if you want to get it first, ad-free, uncensored, you got to go to partoftheproblem.com and become a supporting listener. Also, we just created a brand new YouTube channel, Dave Smith Clips, for clips of our exclusive episodes. Follow the new Clips channel. Also, just a bunch of other clips from all over, different type of stuff that I've done will be up there. Please, if you can, go subscribe to that channel. The link to it will be in the episode description. Hope you enjoy the episode, and I'll catch you next time on partoftheproblem.com.
You guys ready to get a live podcast started? Come on, we can do it bigger than that. You guys ready to do this? Hell yeah. Let's hear it for my podcast host. Let's hear it for Dave Smith.
Hey, guys. Oh, thanks, guys. Hey, Nashville, how are we? How's everyone doing? All right. Wow, this is great. We've been having a great time in Nashville, huh, Rob?
These shows ruled. This is a cool club.
This is cool. I heard nothing but great things about Zany's, and this is my first time at the Nashville Zany's. And we do the one in Chicago and Rosemont all the time. I'll say this is the best one. Now, if you listen to our podcast in Chicago, I did say that there too. But let me tell you, while I'm down here, those savages out there in Chicago, okay? A bunch of animals. I'm never going back there.
It's always good to start the show with a nice, good pander.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all basically I'm doing.
You could have done well in politics, my friend.
I could. And let me tell you, fine people of Nashville, okay? The fine people, the hard-working men and women, that's who I care about. Is the people of Nashville. Were you guys here for the stand-up show? Awesome. How about Nate Bardetzi stopping by and doing that? That was pretty awesome. I'm going to say on this show that he co-signs every political view that I'm about to espouse right now. Now, let's look at World War II from the German perspective for a second. It's like, all these guys are just messing with you. All you're trying to do is have your living space. And then, I'm just kidding. He's not, please, don't ever say that. We're going to edit that part out of this, please. He's my backup plan, okay? If all of this doesn't work, I'm just going to move in with him. This has been fun. Did any of you guys, anyone here, did any of you guys go to the Bitcoin conference? I was here. I was, man.
One guy who owns a lot of Bitcoin.
Dude, I've never, I'm looking out at the audience in the Bitcoin conference. I've never seen such a sea of rich nerds. It's like an unbelievable thing where you're like, these guys really. I'll tell you, there was something really cool about it where, look, there might be, some people are very into Bitcoin, obviously, and there's one of them right there. He owns an eighth of a Bitcoin, and there's the people who are into, the people who are going to the Bitcoin conference are they're hardcore into Bitcoin. And there was something really cool about it where, as you guys know, I was never in that world that much. I always liked the idea. I was always like, oh, this is kind of cool. The idea of currency not dependent on the government. I kind of got it. Then Guy Swan really kind of made me understand it more. He's great. And there you go. He's here. And but there is something so cool about these people, the people there who are hardcore. They were into Bitcoin in 2011 or whatever, when it was the fringiest thing to be into. You kind of imagine
when they first started the Ponzi scheme. And they first started going out there and selling the internet on this great idea. Yeah, those people, sure. Anyways, continue.
Because I'm going to be the next Bernie Madoff. They're into this crazy fringe thing. And then it's whatever, a Bitcoin was worth when they, $3 or whatever when they first started it, and it's $70,000. And now you're you're having this huge event that Donald Trump is speaking at? You know what I mean? And it was like something for the Bitcoin people, and I'm not one of them exactly, kind of, but it was like, this is so cool for you. Like, imagine like rising to the level, being the fringiest thing, and then everyone's coming to your event. Bobby Kennedy was there, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Donald Trump was there. And it's like partly because they're trying to win over that demographic, and partly they're just like, will you donate a Bitcoin to my campaign? Because that would really go a long way for me.
No one else has any money, so... No, it's such a fascinating win, even that Trump had to show up for the Libertarian National Convention. He's talking about freeing Ross. Yes.
Yeah, which he said again at the Bitcoin conference.
He said again.
So he remembers the name.
Right.
That's a start. Because Trump could get in there and be like, I said I'd free someone.
But also that inflation is so top of people's minds, and Bitcoin has created a big enough story that is widespread of, hey, here's an alternative to combat inflation, that even Donald Trump running for president realizes here's a way for me to talk out against inflation. And if he were to actually go through with a policy that mandates the U.S. government has to carry some reserves, I think that's Bitcoin to the moon at that point.
It's definitely got to be good. So what exactly, so I don't know, maybe you understand this better than me. So Donald Trump's big thing was that he said if he's president, he's going to try to have like a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S. government. So like, what does that mean exactly? That the government's going to buy Bitcoin and just keep it?
Yeah, I think...
we're just going to make like a virtual Fort Knox?
I think one of the biggest risks to Bitcoin was the idea that government might try and ban it, or that the NSA might actually have the tech to be able to hack it and mess up the ledgers. Or, if you really want to get conspiratorial, that it was actually Satoshi Nakamoto was the NSA. All right, fine. Listen, Guy Swan's going to hear this later and kill me. But for the sake of this discussion, even if they don't actually require banks or the Federal Reserve to keep it as an asset, the fact that they're saying it would seem to platform that they're not going to ban it. And if any capacity banks were required to hold it or the Federal Reserve was required to hold it, I think that would change the entire game of the way even pension funds viewed it through the ETF. Right. It kind of legitimizes it as an asset. And then also, if you're a fan of what's his name? I'm so bad with names. The guy who wrote the Bitcoin Standard.
Oh, Saifedean Amos. He's great.
Saifedean Amos. So we went way nerdy for being within a comedy club. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll be honest. We were all having fun, and I led you in this direction. I really did. Yeah, I was really good. Hi, guys. We're all making jokes about Trump and the Bitcoin Festival. I go, Rob, explain the history of monetary policy real quick. That'll get them laughing.
Yeah. So in his second book, the sequel to the Bitcoin Standard, he basically describes Bitcoin as kind of a base layer currency. So if even the United States government was adopting it as, I guess, some sort of we're not really on the gold standard, but they still claim to own gold. But just the idea of the Fed getting involved in Bitcoin.
By the way,
yes,
because I did mention Fort Knox before. Any of you guys ever looked into like the conspiracies on that? Which is there's nothing there, dude. Like, they're basically just like, nah, we got a ton of stuff there. And they're like, can we check that it's there? And they're like, nah. And they're like, what is it? Like, I haven't read about this in so long, but it was like the last time Fort Knox was audited was like the 40s or something like that. Like, we just pretend to have stuff we don't have, which I gotta say, I really do admire that. Like, I do kind of want to buy, Nate the other day took me to, what's it called, Shields. So I've never been there before. Shields, like the big like sporting goods store or whatever, and they have these giant safes, like the size of a wall, these big safes. And I kind of want to get one and just have nothing in it. But just like let people who come over to my house see it. You know what I mean? And just be like, oh, that's my big safe right there. Anyway, let's go in the next room. I just think there's something really cool about having a big safe that no one's allowed to audit.
Yeah.
I want to be like the government, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, really. This has all been envy, all these years.
The United States government is world-class at running a Ponzi scheme. So,
They are the best.
But back to the Trump thing, I think he was even saying that he was going to fire Gary Gensler. And so and essentially all of the forces that have been working against Bitcoin, he's at least channeling to the public. Bitcoin's here to stay. The United States government's going to get involved with it. And so if you were a fan of it, I think that's a very promising news story for one. And for libertarians, it's even more promising that people like Donald Trump have to actually contend with our ideas and try and win over our demographic, which I think is a big win.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's like this weird dynamic with Trump where, like, one of the worst things about Donald Trump is that, like, he's just such a boomer that, like, he kind of doesn't get it, and he kind of wants the approval of the establishment. Like, he gets real upset if the New York Times writes something bad about him. He agrees to do a debate on CNN. Like, if Trump was really savvy and a little younger and a little more, it'd be like, no, dude, you get to choose. You're Donald Trump. You could just decide we're doing the debate on a Twitter Spaces and, like, make that the new thing. You know, you could choose that the moderator is whoever you want it to be, and then just blow them up. Instead of, like, giving a town hall to CNN, give your town hall to, you know, like, Tucker Carlson or, like, whoever. You know, like, you could just decide who not even Tucker Carlson, because he's already huge, but, like, you could decide that, like, David Sachs is going to be the guy who gets your town hall and be like, whoa, that's amazing. You know, and he doesn't do that, but it's almost like the establishment has turned on him so much that he's like, all right, I'll talk to the Bitcoin people. You know what I mean? And there's something awesome about that, because he's like, I want to talk to those guys, but they just shot me in the face. So I guess I'll just go talk to these Bitcoin people. I guess I'll go to the Libertarian Party convention. And so there is something, and look, I don't know, if there's any rule of thumb that I have, it's the what's known as the Scott Horton law of presidents. I don't know if you know, but Scott Horton came up with this. It's the best rule of thumb. It's not exactly a law. It's more of a tendency. But the Scott Horton law is that presidential candidates will keep all of their bad promises and none of their good promises. So if a presidential candidate says they're going to do 5 things and 2 of them are great and 3 of them are evil, they will do the 3 evil things. They will not do the 2 great things. So political promises when someone's running for office mean nothing. But there's still something really cool about Donald Trump going to all of these groups and saying, I'm going to do this really great thing. It just, like, kind of puts them on the map, and I love that.
Right. I think
I'm voting Kamala Harris, but I still think it's cool that he's doing that. That's all I'm saying.
So first is, I think the reason why he still goes to CNN or the others for the debates of the town halls is because at the end of the day, if you look at who votes, it's old people and corpses. So you still,
it is true.
Yeah, you still got to play ball.
It's mostly dead people. That's for sure.
Yeah. By the way, there was a story in the New York Times today where the humor editor or opinion person, I don't know, wrote an entire article about how Kamala Harris's laugh is actually an asset and not a liability for the Democrats. I'm convinced that the New York Times is just trolling at this point. Like, they're looking at internet troll culture and they're like, all right, how can we just say batshit people, like batshit crazy things and stay relevant? That's it. I don't think it's news at this point.
I mean, it is the idea of saying her laugh is actually really great. Is like, there's a lot of things you could say. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how crazy
gives great head to old people. You got to give her that.
Well, it's just, that was better than you guys gave it.
Right.
But you know, like, there could be the craziest thing that, like, some, like, crazy left-wing activist could say, and you're like, okay, you roll your eyes at it. You're like, you know, trans women are women or whatever. But then they're like, Kamala Harris's laugh is actually great. And you're like, all right, you're lying now. No one believes that. There's no way you believe that. You can't possibly think that's helping. Listen, I am becoming more and more convinced. See, first, I'll be honest with you guys, okay? So here's where my thinking's at. I said on the last podcast we did that I still don't think Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee. I think someone else is coming in. Now, when the Obamas came out and endorsed her, it was a little bit more like, maybe they're really going with her. But if they are really going with her, then what I'm getting convinced is basically just like, after Trump survived the assassination attempt, they were like, all right, Donald Trump's winning. So let's just ruin Kamala Harris. Because we gotta get this bitch out of the way. And so let's just make Joe Biden step down. Let's have Kamala run, and then we'll all go, she's gonna do really great.
Right.
And then you could just watch out. But there is just no way. And I don't care if they're like, look, in the latest polls, or look at the money she's raised. There is just no way. I do not believe for a second that there's any chance that this chick is gonna get elected. Like, this one? Kamala Harris. Her greatest achievement, and I actually don't want to take this away from her, because it is a legit achievement to blow Montel Williams. But I don't, like, that's pretty cool, okay? That's a really cool thing to do. You've never done anything that cool in your life, by the way, any of you. None of you. So you guys think of Montel Williams now, but no. That's not who Kamala Harris blew. She blew prime Montel Williams. He was great. So anyway, that part was cool. Maybe she'll be president. I don't know.
It's incredible watching all the news companies sell her now. It feels to me like I'm watching Don King just try and move the lines in a fight, where they're just trying to sell the narrative. It's exactly like what I heard about Beto O'Rourke. Remember that guy? The guy from Texas? They were pretending like he was the Messiah.
Dude, the funniest thing about Beto O'Rourke was that everyone, it was, you know, like how they have the thing where everyone in the media says the exact same thing? Like they get their phrase and then everyone says the exact same thing. Like, you know, Vladimir Putin led an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. And everyone says unprovoked. They're like, why? Like, you know, why would you all just pick the same word? Or like horse dewormer. Why did everyone call ivermectin horse dewormer? You didn't come up with another thing. It had to be that exact set. So anyway, but the thing with Beto O'Rourke that everyone would say about him on like CNN and MSNBC was that he had the it factor. They kept going, he's got it.
Yeah.
And then you look at him and you're like, this is the biggest dork I've ever seen in my life. What are you talking about? And they were like, nah, he's cool.
Yeah, polling at 0.5%, but he's got the it factor. It's incredible the way they talk like they don't have to be on the news the next week. I just don't get it. I don't get why they don't care about how wrong they are. It's just, I don't know.
That's everyone's business model except us.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not everybody, but it really is like, so, like, look, dude, all right, I don't know. People in my audience get mad at me when I trash Alex Jones, but I don't care. But it's like, Alex Jones, I know, they're like, oh, he was right, Dave. Do you know the 6 things he was right about? I'm like, totally ignore the 400,000 things that he was just batshit crazy about and focus on these 6. But that's the business model. It's just like throw everything at the wall, and then if any of it turns out to be right, they go, he was a prophet. How could anyone have known? You know, like.
Have you seen a straight frog lately?
Well, that is, the frogs, listen, they weren't even gay. First off, they weren't gay. They were trans. You got that wrong. Well, sure, if you want to look into it, they were actually trans, the frogs.
I've seen some.
But no, but like that's like the model. It's all this like, you know, Alex Jones just said last week, it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I have it from inside sources. Hillary Clinton will be the nominee. Hillary Clinton's not going to be the nominee, and Alex Jones will never mention that again. That's just it. I remember watching Alex Jones. I remember watching when it was it wasn't I don't think it was Kavanaugh. I think it was the first Gorsuch, right? It was one of the two of them. But it was whenever like one of the Supreme Court justices was stepping down, and Alex Jones went live with breaking news, confirmed that Donald Trump will be appointing Judge Napolitano to the Supreme Court, and did a whole show about it. And then he just never talked about it again. He doesn't even come on the next week and go like, listen, we got that one wrong. It's just like never addressed again. It's just like, it says it with complete certainty. I have the papers. We know this for a fact. It never happens. And then he's just like, anyway, all right, here's the next prediction.
Also,
and then all you guys get mad at me when I point that out. And you're like, no, dude, he's a fucking prophet. Like, he got it all right. He predicted 9/11 was going to happen before 9/11 happened. And you're like, yeah, So did Ron Paul and Pat Buchanan and Scott Horton and all these guys. And you know what they didn't do? They didn't also say that interdimensional aliens are controlling the world. So, like, I like the guys who predict that without the insane part. But I guess I'm the crazy one for... Oh, I'm going to get hate for this when we put it out, I know. You don't want to mess with Alex Jones fans.
So to address the new name controversy of the way that you're supposed to pronounce her name, if you're an Indian pretending to be black, just pick an easier name.
That is a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but listen.
Throwing this on us now? I've heard Kamala for 4 years. I don't even know like what the new thing is, but like apparently you and I are racist because we're mispronouncing names.
Well, the funny thing about it is that like it's like who cares how your name is pronounced? But it's just like I was always like Kamala Harris, and then they're like it's not Kamala Harris, it's Kamala Harris. And actually, if you say Kamala, you're a racist. And it's like, well, now I'm never going to say it any other way other than that. Like, now I will never say anything other than, I'm going to, like, accentuate it, like, Kamala, the Ugandan giant Harris. That's your name now.
How is it
Cool wrestler in the 90s, by the way.
How is it supposed to be pronounced? I can't even hear maybe that's the inner racist in me where I'm like, I can't even hear the difference.
They go, it's actually pronounced Kamala, and Rob's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear black people. I'm sorry. It just sounds like a loud pitch to me.
Yeah.
I'm not making out any of your words. I apologize.
Can you maybe have a white person try it for me?
By the way, it is all white people who are saying that,
right.
By the way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, we'll see what happens. I'm still, after how crazy the last few weeks are, I'm still like, I think she's going to be out in a couple weeks. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
They were pretending like...
Hillary will be in, and then I'll have to apologize to Alex Jones. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones. You got it right.
They were pretending like Biden was going the distance until they put him in a debate with Donald Trump. It's still early in the election process, and you and I have seen how dumb she is. I don't see her surviving and making it all the way to the election. She seems so unelectable, so unlikable. I don't even understand why they tried it, other than your theory makes sense, that they want to get her out of the way. Or I'm working off the headlines here. Seymour Hersh's theory was, I guess, reasonable, that they forced Biden out because they got her on board with the coup, and that she was going to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would make him look bad, and she agreed to do it because they said that they would.
Do any of you guys know what Rob's talking about? So for those of you guys who don't, Seymour Hersh, who's like a legit real deal, like a real journalist, and there aren't that many of them left, but he's like a real deal guy. I mean, he's older now. He's like 90 or something, but he was known for like great reporting on the Vietnam War and stuff like that. And he's not the type of guy who just like makes stuff up. Like if he tells you he's got sources, he has them. And he just ran this piece about how like it was like a real deal coup to get Joe Biden out, and that Barack Obama basically forced him. And they essentially said, we're going to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove you as president. And Obama told them that they had Kamala Harris on board. Like, she's on board with it. And we're going to remove you against your will if you don't just drop out of the race. And so my theory on all of this is that Biden didn't agree. And then they just drafted that letter.
Yeah, I think
without his like knowledge. And then they were like, well, it's out there now, and it's a done deal. So what do you want to do? You want to fight this thing? And then we're all going to say, hey, this senile old man did agree to this. He just doesn't remember it. And then we're going to remove you anyway. And then your legacy forever will just be that. Or you could get on, get it in the Oval Office and say, yep, that's right, Kamala Harris. And then we'll all celebrate how noble it is that you did that. Like, I think that's what happened. Who knows, but it seems like that's the most likely. But if you just think about how crazy that is, that they threatened to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Biden as to say he's unfit to be the commander-in-chief. And then when he agreed to not run, they went, oh, you can keep being president, but that's fine. You can be the commander-in-chief for another 5 months. No problem, bro. It's just so insane.
It's just as likely that they just tweeted it and he went, wait, what's a computer?
You know, tweet.
Yeah, I can undo that, right?
Who cares what a birdie said?
The other thing that was fascinating this past week is them trying to pretend like Kamala never had the position of border czar, that never existed. You're inventing it. If you ever heard that, I don't know why you think it. It's like they're almost trying to pretend like it's like a Bernstein Bear situation. You know? They're like, it never happened. You collectively, you're all misremembering. That never existed.
Dude, there's some great compilation videos of just like the corporate media just being like, and she's the border czar, vice president border czar. And then like cutting to them being like, border czar? Who ever said anything about border czar? That's ridiculous.
It's like they still live in a world where like, wait, people have those clips? It's like they're still dumbfounded. They're like, wait, we said that 2 years ago. That was something we said that week.
Dude, that was my favorite thing about, I used to do a joke about this, but it's an old thing now. But you guys remember Anthony Weiner? If you're not familiar.
Hey, listen, if I had a dick that looked like that and my name was Weiner, I would think I was supposed to show people.
It's a fair point. Now, for those of you guys who don't, Anthony Weiner was a congressman in New York named Weiner. And he tweeted a dick pic as a sitting congressman. Now, to be fair, these were the early days of Twitter. No one really knew what was going on. He was trying to direct message a dick pic to this girl, but he accidentally just tweeted a dick pic. A sitting member of Congress named Weiner just tweeted a dick pic. And then he immediately deleted it. And I always thought like the funniest thing to me was like, they don't really understand the internet. Like, when he tweeted his dick pic and went, oh my God, I just tweeted that. And then the second he hit delete, he was like, all right, taken care of. Close call. But I deleted it. I think we're going to be fine. And you're like, that's not how the internet works at all, man. Like, there's 500,000 people have this now. And so he thought it was just, but like that's like the same type thing that you're like, nah, dude, we took that down. No one has that. And you're like, everyone has that. But isn't it, by the way, the Weiner, it's just the greatest story ever in the history of politics. So he deletes it, but then everyone, screenshots of it are like all over the place. I don't even understand it, but I just know that nothing on the internet is ever taken down, really. You can always find it, Wayback Machine or whatever. So they all have it, and then he just denied it. Like, he was just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, that I didn't, that's insane. And then they like asked him at one point, they were like, is that a picture of you? And he goes, I have no way of knowing.
But it's really nice.
Which is such a great, it was such a obviously guilty response. Like, we're just be like, you have no way of knowing. And then the internet's just insane. You can't beat them where they're just like, it's like everything in the background. They're like, well, that's your computer and that's a book. And
that's your kid from Epstein's Island.
They just found everything. Anyway, this was my favorite part of all of it was that, and this is why I actually genuinely respect that guy, Anthony Weiner, even though he's not a good person. But there's something you have to, your average congressman, if he's named Weiner, and he tweets out a dick pic, he's going to resign. He's going to go, you know what? I'm going to have to leave Congress. But Weiner, he hung on for 3 weeks and refused to resign. And there were calls from his own party, you got to step down, you got to do this, it's such an embarrassment, this huge humiliation. And he was like, no. And he held a press conference announcing that he wouldn't resign. And I remember watching this. And he starts the press conference and he goes, a lot of people are calling for me to resign, but I'm not going to because I was elected. And he goes, I have not broken any laws and I have not violated the Constitution. And I remember watching that and going, that is the most incredible defense for tweeting a dick pic. that I've ever heard. Like, he's right. He did not violate the Constitution. There is nothing in the Constitution that says you're not allowed to tweet a dick pic. Our founders could not foresee this problem that would plague our nation one day. A few days later, he did resign, but he hung on for a while. Eventually, the pressure was just too much, and it was just like, you got to go. And then, but you can't make this up. So then, he's off for like a couple years. He comes back, and he runs for mayor. He runs for mayor of New York City, the biggest city in the United States of America, and he was winning. He was number one in the polls. And then another dick pic surfaced. You can't make this up. This is better than anything I could write, okay? This is all true. You can go, if you're not familiar with the story, you can go look it up. It's all true. This genuinely happened. Another dick pic surfaced. And he was polling number one for mayor. He was going to be mayor. And then in one day, he dropped from first place to last place. Like that. And this is just what I think is great about New York. As a New Yorker, this is what I'm proud of in our city, is that, look, he was polling in first place. And we already knew about the first dick pic story. You know what I mean? Like, we were willing to move past that. I was like, hey, listen, man, it happens. You know what I mean? But then another dick pic came out, and all of New York was like, all right, well, that's just like, you can't, no. Like, dick pic me once, shame on you. But you can't, like, this can't be a regular thing, you know? And he was married to Hillary Clinton's lesbian partner. And then I think they broke up. They didn't make it.
Because now she graduated to Soros's kid.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, real deep state marriage.
Man.
Lizard people stick together.
Man, she's not allowed to just marry like a normal guy. She's got to just constantly be like in this weird world.
I think she likes that world. I think that's what it is. Yeah. And
she's like, listen, I'm only sleeping with Hillary Clinton either way, so it doesn't matter. This is all just an arrangement.
I mean, if you can get your hands on that Soros money, why would you do anything else?
He does have a lot of money.
I got nothing on that.
Oh. Sorry, guys. I just got a text from Tucker Carlson. Anyway, no big deal. Sorry.
I don't even need to do this show right now because Tucker's on my phone, so you guys can just entertain yourselves for a couple minutes. There's something more important happening.
No, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'll read it aloud. 2028, me and you. What do you say? Nah, that's not gonna work.
You already lied to the
I'm just
Mount
kidding. By the way,
once.
it was my brother. It's none of this is happening at all. But all right. So what else? By the way, you know these live shows we do questions and stuff. So any questions any of you guys have, we're gonna get to you in a minute. We want to talk about what? The Olympics. They had a bunch of trans at the Olympics. Everyone's very upset about that.
I mean, is it shocking news that France is gay?
If it is, then maybe you're the problem. Honestly, maybe we're fucking try to keep up.
Yeah, you guys picked doing the Olympics. Though. Why are you surprised?
Listen, you guys know, I'm with you that like pushing all this trans stuff is like ridiculous, and they shouldn't be doing all that. But it's so much worse than gay. All right, listen. This might be an unpopular take. I'm gonna go all Alex Jones on you guys here, but. Fuck the Olympics. Why? You're all just pretending. None of you care. It's like a bunch of sports none of us watch. But then every 4 years you gotta go, now we like it. We're really into swim races. Like if it wasn't the Olympics and it was just Thursday and one of your boys was like, hey, you want to come over and watch two women swim race? You'd be like, were you kicked in the head? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course I don't want to do that. That sounds like the worst thing we could ever do. But then like, because it's the Olympics and your country's involved, you're like, oh dude, I'm way into the pole vault this year. Like, I don't know. Oh, watch a man jump with a stick. That's a cool game, right? Like, no, that game sucks. I don't care about the Olympics at all, and I don't care about what dumb gay ceremony they do at the beginning. Why are you watching it? It makes no sense. It's literally a collection of things. Like, you're just like, I don't know, dude, you want to go watch America versus France in Flip Cup? And you're like, no, I don't. Why would I? It's your country, dude. Come on. The whole thing's a scam. It's like a weird globalist world government thing. We all come together and play these games, just like they did in ancient Greece. And you're like, no, they didn't. Ancient Greece didn't really have Olympics. They had people from like 5 miles away. Well, how far were they? What did they come on? Canoe? I don't know. They weren't coming from that far. No one was coming from Africa to Greece to play in the Olympics.
And they would have won.
Sometimes people ask me why I bring him everywhere. The kid's good. You know what I mean? He's great. He knows what he's doing. I don't know. Is there anything more to say about it than that, though? Like, what is the thing is that, like, the problem, the fatal flaw of right-wingers is that, like, they always, I'm not saying you can't be mad about lots of different things and you can't walk and chew gum, but it's like right-wingers always fall for, like, the lowest hanging fruit. And then that's what all the energy gets, you know? Like, dude, have you seen some of the stuff that's coming out on that, the guy who shot Trump? And, like, have you seen how they're tracing his phone data and where he was in D.C., meeting at, like, a kind of FBI building? Like, they just tried to blow your president's brains out on national television. And not 2 weeks later, all of the outrage is about some dudes in dresses at the Olympics. Like, fucking focus, people. You know what I mean? Focus on what matters. God damn. By the way, could someone get him on a no-carb diet? By the way, is that possible? He's not even fat, but his face is fat as shit. Like, he's like, what does J.D. Vance weigh? What do you think, 200 pounds? 180 pounds? His face is the face of a 400-pound man. What the hell is going on? Like, is he hiding food in his cheeks? What's happening with that guy? Just a thought. I'm just trying to help. This is all right-wingers. This is constructive criticism, okay?
Thus far, he doesn't seem particularly smooth.
No, it's not good. You know, the funny thing is, you guys see that the clip of his, which is an old clip, but it's like going super viral, where he said that thing on Tucker about how the problem is we got all these childless women like running shit, and you're like, and then like you're all offended by that. But I will say, I think that's the greatest thing I've ever heard anybody say. Like, that is an excellent point. Childless women should be nowhere near power. Nothing against you, ladies. If you don't want to have kids, that's totally fine. You don't have to have kids. And if you really don't want to have kids, you shouldn't have kids. Because that's crazy. Like, something's wrong if you really don't want to have kids. Okay, then don't. But you don't get to be in any position of power then. Dudes, you're fine. But ladies, if you don't, like, there is something about that where you're like, you have no stakes. You don't really care. So, like, get out of here then. I loved that. And they're all beating up on him for it. And they're all like, well, how about this woman who didn't have kids, who did so and so, you know, and you're like, yeah. She shouldn't be there either. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? Get out of here. Have some babies or shut up. I don't know. I remember...
what if you're like Michelle Obama and you bought your babies?
No, that's not. All right, listen, we have fun here. But it should be noted that, like, a lot of this stuff is just jokes. And, like, the idea that Michelle Obama didn't have babies is not fair. She got that chick pregnant herself. She did. Don't you worry. Dude, an old friend of mine once said to me, I remember it was the first time when I told him that my wife was pregnant, our first kid, and it was early. It was like before we told people. You know, you kind of wait for the first like trimester before you like tell everybody. But he like just happened to text me when she was like 8 weeks pregnant or something like that. We weren't like really telling people except our family yet. And he was like, dude, like you guys are going to be so happy. Like I know you guys are going to have kids over the next few years or something. And I was like, well, since you mentioned that, let me tell you something. Like my wife's actually pregnant. We're having a kid. And he goes, oh, dude, I'm so happy. He goes, let me tell you something I never would have told you before. People who have kids don't respect people who don't have kids.
Yes.
And the way he said it, I was like, wait, really? Like, not at all? He goes, not at all. And I do feel like it's kind of a secret in a way that like it is, but now like that's not true at all. I respect some people who don't have kids a little bit, but like not really, you know? And like there is
so better about my life. Jeez, buddy.
No, Rob, you're great. I just don't respect you. Like you're great. You're an excellent comedian. It's been amazing to watch you grow over the years, and you're great at hosting the podcast with me. I just don't respect you. You know what I mean? No, I don't exactly mean that, but there is something about that, and like I do think whether J.D. Vance was exactly right or not, I'm kind of like glad someone said that. You know, at least like get that in the conversation a little bit. Then it's like, yeah, you should kind of like, there is a difference when you have little kids where it's just like, or older kids or whatever, where it's just kind of like, you don't, look, before I ever had kids, if you had asked me, like, do you care about the future of America? I'd have been like, yeah, I care about the future of America, you know? And I would have meant it, but not the way I do now. Like the way I do now, it's like, no, that's the most important thing that I've ever cared about in the history of everything. Because my kids got to live here. So like, this is the only thing that matters. Is what like the attitude that parents have is much more like if you had to stab me in the face, but that would guarantee that my kids lived in like a great, prosperous, and safe world. And the only way they can live that way is stab me. You're like, okay, stab me in the face then. Like, that's how much it means, you know? And like, I don't think you have that unless you have kids. And so any of you guys out here who don't have kids, like, go fuck yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we're not a part of it. Get out. I'm just kidding. But you get the point I'm making. All right, anyway, do you want to, do we got anything else, or are we going to, we got to move to the question and answer.
Yes, let's take questions.
Let's take some questions. Anything you guys want. No topics are off limits. I mean, we don't have to put this episode up, so you can ask whatever you want to. I can just not put this out. So
right here. I'm going to hold the mic.
There's people all around. How are you, sir?
Hi, Dave. You said to focus on what matters, so are you going to do some more Bitcoin podcasts now?
Dude, you know, and it's really funny, as we were talking about Safe up top, yeah, I know, Safety, and I just call him Safe because I don't want to go through all that every time I say it. But literally, he came on and we did a podcast on like Israel-Palestine because he's Palestinian and has a very interesting perspective on that. But literally, as Rob was talking about him earlier, I was like, oh, shoot, I did say we'll do a Bitcoin podcast, and this is the perfect timing. So I will text him tomorrow morning, and we'll set that up very soon. As soon as he can, we'll set that up indeed. And then I got to have Guy Swan back on too, because I was just hanging with him the other day. It's been too long. I love that guy. He is like crazy, dude. He is so goddamn smart, man. And and he's a great dude. I love Guy Swan.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for doing this. I think it's really cool. That,
oh, thank you, man.
You give us a question. We can talk to you. You're only 1 degree of separation from people that are like, Donald Trump. As of yesterday.
Yes, I'm 1 degree away from people who matter. This is the closest we'll get.
So, my question is, a lot of the problems that we're facing in this country or the world, a lot of it seems to stem from the misappropriation of them taking our tax dollars and spending, whether it's giving to NGOs that fund mass migration, weapon manufacturers that are weapons sent to either Gaza or sent to Ukraine, or even maybe condition funding.
I mean, the weapons aren't being sent to Gaza exactly, but
they're meeting their eventually.
They are making their way there. That's true. That's a fair point. That is the ultimate destination of. Yeah, sure, that's good.
our tax money have been used to potentially assassinate Donald Trump. So if they're misappropriating all of our taxes, why can't we all just, collectively get together and say, let's pay me?
Well,
Internet, the crowd booed that.
all right. Listen, whenever there's anything that's quasi talking about breaking the law, I always got to be careful about exactly what I say. So let me just be very clear. I do not advocate that anybody break the law, and anybody who ever publicly advocates that you break the law, treat them like they're a Fed. Okay? Just assume they're a Fed and they're trying to get you into some things. Now, in a hypothetical conversation, that only works if you got big enough numbers. You know what I mean? So like if there's, let's just say there was massive civil disobedience on a huge scale, then that would be very, very effective. But if it's on a small scale, they will do anything they can to ruin you to make sure more people don't get on board with that too. So that's like kind of the essence of like why what I'm in is the world of spreading ideas, because we just got to get. So a lot of people have woken up, over the last few years particularly, but we need way, way more.
We ice bucket challenge?
Okay, what?
We said, can we ice bucket challenge it?
So wait, what is that? And then just
I
like
don't
pass it
fucking
up to
know.
the
I
other
was just hoping I
person?
could repeat it and you could take it from there.
You know what was really funny is that he said it, and I went, huh? And then Rob goes, he said ice bucket challenge. And I was like, no, I heard it. That wasn't the issue. I just didn't get it at all.
He started off real colon-informed, and then he took it to TikTok, so I don't know what he's talking about now.
You know what? Yes, we can.
All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Black Forest Supplements. I want to tell you about NMN. This isn't just any supplement, it's a game changer. A recent Harvard study, which you can check out here, showed that NMN can help reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults. The FDA is attempting to change the status of NMN supplements to be classified as a drug, which would allow pharmaceutical companies to control it. The move is not based on the efficacy or safety of NMN. Instead, it's aimed at cornering the market and taking the supplement away from you. But at part of the problem, we don't like those feds too much. So for our listeners, they agreed to an amazing buy two, get one free deal just for our fans. This stuff isn't cheap, so it's a great opportunity to stock up. Black Forest Supplements is ready to fight for this. They want to ensure the people have access to NMN. But who knows? There might come a day when agents are at Black Forest's door trying to stop them from selling this life-changing supplements. So you got to go check out the link and grab some for yourself right now. Go check them out at blackforestsupplements.com/Dave. That's blackforestsupplements.com/Dave. All right, let's get back into the show.
Hey, and I've been listening to you since 2015.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much, dude.
Obviously, you're right on so many things. I think one of the...
I think you mean everything, but yeah.
Also, what forced to watch you develop, and especially becoming a dad. And I think one of the biggest challenges in our society is true masculinity being partnered up with femininity. You talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah.
And we've been more veterans, and we talk about we talk about being peaceful but not harmless. And
yeah.
I think you kind of touch on some of that stuff. We want to be peaceful, and it's awesome when you kind of touch on that. And I wonder if you could maybe talk about how that fixes our society a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, Jordan Peterson had some of the greatest. Before he signed with the Daily Wire,
You had one? Okay.
But that was one of his greatest points ever, right? Because it's totally true that being harmless as a man is the worst thing you can be. This is the worst thing you can be. That's you're a baby, essentially, right? You're nothing. You're totally weak. And what you really want is to have total capability of being deadly, but then only using that for good and not for bad. That's the highest ideal. And I gotta say, again, like, this is kind of against my own interest to even talk. Like, even when I was trashing Alex Jones before, I know who my audience is. I know that doesn't win me fans, you know? Like, it's like I'd be way better off for my own incentives to just say, oh, look at what Alex Jones was right about, you know, and look at all this. But I just like, but I will, in the similar spirit, I do feel like there's been like this insane, you know, like sustained establishment attack on masculinity for many decades now. But then like the kind of reactionary movement against that is like also just, you know, like the Andrew Tate like type stuff where it's almost like this caricature of like, well, let me tell you what masculinity is. It's having 6 Bugattis and banging every chick and like being top G and all this. And you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. This is the gayest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, all you're convincing me of is that you like dudes. That's the only takeaway I have from any of this. You're like, what is it, your 7-year-old version of what it is to be a man? Like, that sucks, dude. All of that sucks. And I'm not even like, listen, I've heard Andrew Tate say some things where I was like, he nailed that, you know, and that was great. But I'm just saying, like, more in like the bigger picture of like what it is to be a man is like, dude, the highest value of like being a man is like protection and provision. That's like what it is to be a man, to like protect and provide for the people you love. And that, if you want to have a healthy society, that has to be like crazy value. Like that should be rewarded. Everybody. And like, I don't give a shit. Listen, man, like I'm doing pretty good. Like I'm making good money and stuff. I don't know, like any insane, but like I'm doing very well for myself. And I was like dead broke for many, many years. And like, I could just tell you that like having a fancy car is like, or anything like that, is just like the most meaningless thing. It's just like, I'm not saying like if you're really into cars and it means something to you to have like a cool car, I'm not saying like you can't be into the thing you're into, but none of that matters at all. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, that's the biggest waste of time. It's like leading people down this journey that will end in nothing. You know, like you think that's going to be fulfilling? It's like trying to get laid a lot. Okay, yeah, you think that, yeah, as a little boy, you think that'll be really cool. Then go do that, and you find out how empty that is. It means nothing, and you just become more and more miserable as you chase all that stuff. And so to me, it's like, what we really need is like the real, like true masculinity, which is actually like we all know what it is already. It's always like your wise, like, grandfather was never like, when he said, it was like, listen, son, what matters is that you bang a lot of hot chicks and drive fancy cars. You know what I mean? Like that's not what actually matters. None of it matters. That's all stupid. Like what really, you know, like the thing about like the highest level of masculinity is that it's like, yeah, like you could kill that fucking guy, but you don't because he didn't do anything to you. You only do that if someone was like posed a threat to your wife or children, and then you fucking kill him immediately. You know what I mean? Like that's the highest level of like masculinity. So, really good question. I should have a better answer, but kill people is what I'm trying to say. Where are you, Rob?
Right here.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
So, I'll preface this by saying I'm going to vote for Trump this year. But the thing with him is there's obviously like a cult of personality around him.
Yeah.
So like he picks J.D. Vance, and every MAGA person, they're talking about J.D. Vance, like he can do no wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
But, so let's say Trump doesn't win, or he does and he runs for 4 years, and we're still having elections, still living somewhat in the same country right now. What do you think goes on with those Trump people? Like, do they get back to more critical thinking about who they elect, or it's like, let's see who Trump is support and that's our guy?
Dude, that's such a good question, and I really do. I just have no fucking idea, you know? And like, the thing about it is that it's not, Donald Trump doesn't really deserve to be president again. And he really, like, there's enough things that he got wrong, like so wrong, that he does not deserve that. But the other side deserves to lose so much more. then he deserves something. Like, they just have to lose. You know what I mean? And like, for so many reasons. But like, I mean, there's just like, you could just rattle off a few of them. But like, look, Joe Biden and the Democrat, not Joe Biden, you know, but the whole Democratic side, they went all in on forcing everybody to get that goddamn jab. And they were totally fucking wrong. Like, I don't know, dude. Looking at the evidence, maybe you could make an argument, maybe, that there was a very small demographic of people who it made sense to get the COVID vaccine. You know, like if you were like old and sick and had never had COVID, maybe you got some protection for like a few months from getting that thing, but that's it. Nobody else should have got. The idea that like a young, healthy person should have taken that vax is insane. You were taking way more risk on than any benefit that was going to come from it. And they went all in on that. Then they went all in on if we arm Ukraine, they can win. And then they fucking weaponized the justice system against Trump. Like, they just tried to arrest their political opponent and get him locked up. And just for that alone, your party deserves to lose like 4 elections in a row. You know what I mean? Like, it's the only way to clean it up. The problem is that the other side are these guys. And, you know, I understand where it's almost like out of like a desperation that people, and just by the nature of humanity, like the nature of the beast, people want to just be on a team. That's the leader. We're all behind him. He's our guy. But did you see literally just earlier today, I saw the clip of Donald Trump saying that cops should have full immunity. And it's like, damn, man. You're like, man, I mean, that other side still deserves to lose more than you. But like, anyone who even says that fucking retarded shit also deserves to lose. You know what I mean? And like, okay, they deserve to lose more than he deserves to lose. But what the fuck are you even talking about, dude? Like, he didn't even say qualified immunity. I don't even think he knows what he's saying. He said full immunity. Like what? They can just do anything? Oh yeah, agents of the state should be allowed to do whatever they want to do to American citizens and never suffer any consequences. Yeah, that's a really good plan, dude. Like, I'm like, I just, all of it is just so disgusts me. And so like, I don't know, you know, like there is a part, you know, I said on stage earlier, I'm voting for Trump. I was like joking around. I don't really know what I would do. Like maybe, honestly, if you got me in a voting booth on election day, I might just vote for Trump just because like, fuck them and they deserve to lose more than anyone else. But I think what we got to do is just kind of like I'm never going to be the guy who just falls in line and says, yeah, Trump's right about everything. Because come on, like why, who, again, like to your question about like masculinity, like who the fuck would ever want to be that as a man? Like that shows a real crisis in masculinity too, that any man is ever looking at another man and going like, he's my leader and he's right about everything. Fuck that. Especially this guy. Like, yeah, the guy who kept Fauci on the job for all of 2020 is the fucking greatest guy ever. Like, get out of here. So anyway, I don't know, it's all bad. You know, where they go after Trump is a fascinating question. I think that's probably the most interesting question. And I don't know what the answer is. What I do suspect, which is good, is that I don't think they're ever going back to the Republican establishment types. I think it's going to be some type of populist, you know, like nationalist figure. And hopefully someone good gets in there. You know, I don't know if Vivek could be that guy. I would love it if he could. I don't know. There's a very like specific skill set that you need in order to actually be the guy who like can lead that type of movement. I don't know. But I hope it would be something like that. Like someone who could like combine that kind of like anti-establishment populist thing with some ideas that actually make sense. You know what I mean? Like, and so we'll see. But that is the right question. Dude, we'll see where he's at. I'd be real interested in that, you know, and so, yeah. Look, I like the guy a lot. He's super, you know, it's almost like sometimes I feel like I hold things against Vivek that aren't fair to hold against him. Like he's almost so polished that I'm like, are you full of shit? You know what I mean? But then I'm like, I agree with what he's saying, but I'm just like, you sound too good when you're saying that. But I do think, look, if nothing else, he's at least inserting so many important ideas into like the national conversation. So I hope he keeps going. And I tell him that every time we talk, you know? Well, I'll have him back on anytime he wants to come back.
Dave, Josiah Baker, chairman of the Libertarian Party, Tennessee, Nashville, meets this support member.
Oh, all right, awesome.
Thank you for coming to our great state. I just wanted to say, could I get a retweet? I personally am supporting Clint Russell and the redheaded libertarian as presidential candidate in the St. Tennessee because we understand reaching the remnant. And we're activating the Ron Paul movement here. After I win re-election as state chair, I will be continuing Angela's work at national as the national chair. Can I get a retweet from you, sir?
Well, that's weird. Like just in life? Like right now? All right, retweet it. Yes. Wait, so you saying you're supporting Clint and Josie?
Clint and Josie have agreed to run the presidential ticket because they understand the mission of activating the remnant. We are putting them up as an independent, me personally.
Oh.
The remnant sounds like a militia. I just want to say that. I like Josiah, but this sounds like militia talk.
Militia name,
yeah.
Let me say.
Yeah.
Well,
we are
great.
collecting signatures for them. And I know you love Clint, you love Josie.
I love both of them.
Man.
Yeah,
So,
both of them are absolutely great, and I love Angela, and I love everybody. You know, I'm like,
Sure.
I'm
I take one more, and I'm going to rotate.
a little bit down
We just did a
on
piece.
everything right now, if that makes sense. And I don't mean,
I'll get
listen,
you.
I always say I hate pessimism, and I hate none of that black pill shit here. You know, it's always like I'm optimistic about the future because I got kids. I've no other choice. That's the only option. There's no option to be pessimistic. That's it. We're going to win, and now we're going to figure out how we're going to win. But I will say, some of the stuff with the Libertarian Party is, I love libertarians. I totally understand I'm a member of the Libertarian Party, and for a reason, because, what we were just saying about Trump, it's okay, we can't just go, no, we'll support this guy instead. It's somebody at some point has to plant a flag and be like, no, this is what we actually should be doing, rather than just constantly being in this, continuous cycle of one party or the other. I feel like I'm always in the position of having to give a bitter pill to the Libertarian Party members and be like, no, you need to swallow this medicine. And one of the things that's just been wild to me has been watching, and I have not engaged in it at all. If you've looked at if you follow me on social media, I don't think I've commented on anything regarding the Libertarian Party since the week after the convention. And then, I had Brian McWilliams on the show and we talked a bit about it, but I'm just kind of staying out of it. But the amount of energy that I've seen from so many members of the Libertarian Party on social media talking about whatever the latest thing in the Libertarian Party is. Chase is the nominee, but he wasn't on this ballot, and they're doing a thing with RFK, whereas that's not what the party's supposed to be doing, and this happened at the LNC, and this happened over here, and people all day tweeting about it. And I'm talking from every camp. Mises Caucus, listen, our Mises Caucus included, all of these people, and you're dude, the last 3 weeks have been the craziest 3 weeks in modern American history, dude. The fucking presidential frontrunner got shot in the head. The president of the United States dropped out of the race. All of this. And if you care more about what's going on with your state Libertarian Party affiliate than what's going on with your nation, then why the fuck should you ever be in a position of power in your nation? Why should anyone ever put you in a position to actually care about? And so it's my message has always been to the people in the Libertarian Party, hey man, party politics is one thing, but that's 17th on your list of priorities, dude. What really matters is what's actually happening around you. And so that's just that whatever you're doing in the Libertarian Party, that's just what I would stress the most. Engage in the real fucking world. not your own dumb little world about like who's arguing over who controls this irrelevant third party, which by the way, I want my people to control that irrelevant third party very much. But anyway, that's kind of my like message on the whole thing and where I'm at.
All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today's show, which is ZBiotic. This is a game-changing product you got to check out. If you enjoy drinking, you're definitely going to want to check out ZBiotic's pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for those rough-necked mornings. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to take ZBiotics before your first drink, and you'll notice a major difference. Also, drink responsibly and try to get some good rest so you can feel your best tomorrow. Check them out at zbiotics.com/POTP to get a 15% discount off your first order when you use the promo code POTP at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/POTP and use the promo code POTP at checkout for 15% off. Thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back into it.
Rob, where's who we got next? Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate it.
Just tell. You're cool.
I'm going to hold the mic.
I'm going to hold it.
Robbie just asked me to sit back down. Dave, I love you. I heard about you on Joe Rogan's show, probably maybe a little
You found me from Joe Rogan. You're the first one.
I know. It's crazy.
That
It
was
was obscure Spotify broadcast. But hey, you mentioned during the show that there had to be that one person who was going to take the ring of power like Lord of the Rings and throw it into the volcano Mordor. Here's my question. All right, so there's Trump, there's Kamala Harris, or whoever's going to replace her.
right.
We'll throw Kennedy and Chase into that mix. But here's my question. Besides yourself, who would be that person who would step up and throw that ring into the volcano Mordor?
Ron fucking Paul, baby. The only one I've ever seen. Listen, I will say I love the movie.
Rotate that way.
I don't think that's the way it's going to happen. You know, I don't think anyone's going to get the ring of power and throw it in the. Well, I think it's a great metaphor, and that's the only way. Like the power has to be destroyed. But I think that the only hope we have is kind of like the model of the Soviet Union collapse. You know, it's not going to come exactly from the top, like just deciding. Someone gains all the power, then decides they don't want it anymore. It's going to come from the fact that like there's this like decentralization, and people are like balkanizing and splitting apart, and they don't respect the power anymore. And then the powerful are because you know if you ever if you read Michael Malice's book, The White Pill, which is great, and it's such a good book. It's the best thing he ever wrote. All the rest is garbage, but that book was really good. And you know, it's a real interesting history where like at the end of the Soviet Union, like as the writing was on the wall that it's like, oh, this whole thing's coming unglued. And you got to think like the Soviet Union controlled half of Europe for like 6 decades. And there were people at the top who were like, no, we're not going to let them split up. We're going to force them back in. Like they put down the revolts the way they had previously. And then eventually there were people who were just like, nah, we're just going to let them go, you know? And I think like, I think something like that really could happen where just like, and it doesn't even have to be like it doesn't have to be national divorce or the United States of America actually breaking up, but it's got to be some form of DC losing a lot of their power and their power going in like different directions, you know, like it's not going to be a perfect anarchist like utopia or like every individual becomes a sovereign like that, you know, that is kind of the ideal, but something where it's like at least like a lot more federalism or a lot more decentralization and something like that. So I think it's actually more like the ring of power is only given power because everyone on the bottom allows it to have that power. And if everyone on the bottom starts like kind of taking that away, then the ring itself is destroyed without anyone like kind of having. But I would just say like the mentality of like who's going to go grab that ring and then destroy it, I just don't think that's the way it's going to work. But if Ron Paul's the only guy I ever saw who I thought maybe would be that guy. If I see another one, I'll be the first to let you know. But I haven't seen anyone else since him. And it's definitely not me.
Back left corner, Mr. Smith.
All right. How are you doing, Rob? Do you know how we are on time? What time are we supposed to wrap?
You're the boss, but I say let's take 3 more.
Wait, I'm the boss?
You're the boss, my friend.
All right. We never wrap. Okay, we can do a few more questions. Where are you, Rob?
Over here.
Oh, there you are.
Thank you.
By the way, can I just say for a second, that was the phoniest thing I've ever done in my life. That I just went, where are you? And he goes, over here. And I didn't find him at all. And I just went, there you are. And I was just like, this will buy me some time, and then I'll find it. But I didn't see anything. I went, oh, there you are, sir.
Marco.
Hey, okay, now I got you.
Hey. Given the fact that Kamala Harris hates everybody in this room, Chase Oliver probably does too, and that Trump said he would pardon Rawls, do you think libertarians just this time should vote for Trump?
Sure. You know, if you want to. I mean, I don't know. The thing is that, like, with voting, first of all, who even knows if it's real?
Pick a game.
I'm going to take him and then I'll go up.
The calculation also really depends on where you live. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many, like, if you're in a state where you're in a deep red state or a deep blue state, yeah, well, I'm saying then it doesn't really matter so much who you come. Yeah, I'm going to really exercise my 1 in 160 millionth, like influence on this thing. So I think in that case, there's a really strong argument to vote for a third party just to kind of send a message. If you're in a swing state, I could certainly see the argument. The problem is this, and this is something that always upsets people, that people don't like to hear, right? But that it's not always the case that the best thing for a Republican or a right-winger or something like that, or conservative, is for a Republican to be president. Sometimes it's better for a Democrat to be president. And sometimes it's way better for left-wingers for a Republican to be president. And so there's just a lot of calculations that it's kind of hard to say. I mean, look, if you think about the 4 years that Donald Trump was president, was like there were some things that were good that came out of it. I'm not like denying that. He got like some really good deregulation in the energy sector. He got some tax cuts that I thought were good. He stopped arming the anti-Assad rebels in Syria. He, at least after surging in Afghanistan,
We're going to take 2 more
put
questions.
the plan to end the war in Afghanistan in place, which Biden totally fucked up, but did end, And there were good things, but I mean, it was the biggest fundraiser for the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL. It was the biggest ratings for CNN and MSNBC, or recently. And so I don't know. And then it culminated in 2020. The worst year in modern American history. So I don't know. Is it so clear that was good? I don't know. I really, I never tell anyone, what you should do or who you should vote for. There's just it's such a complicated calculation. The only thing I'm comfortable, telling people that what they should do is I think you should get married and have kids and love the shit out of your kids. That's the only thing I'm comfortable telling you to do. Anything else, I don't know. Maybe. But if libertarians want to vote for Donald Trump, I understand the argument.
Or sleep with Rob after a show. Just putting it out there. It's
You
not
should do that. You should, ladies, you should sleep with Rob Bernstein. Fellas, yeah, jump on board as well. You should sleep with Rob. It'll be the best thing for your marriage. All right, single ladies, go. Sleep with Rob. It won't kill you. I just talk about it like your dad who's trying to convince you to like be nice to another kid. It won't kill you to just blow Rob. All right, ladies. So, come on. You've done worse.
What's up, Dave?
What's up?
This might be a naive question because it's the Democrats we're talking about. But what are your thoughts on them over the past couple of days switching stances on digital currency, and how much of that do you think is like genuine? And how
What, the Democrats switching stance?
Yeah, there's some voices out there, politicians like switching stances on it. And there is a letter, I don't know how real it is, sort of like one of the heads of the DNC, like basically saying, hey, we should first switch our stance on this, seemingly to try and get voters. And how much of that do you think is genuine, and how much of that is really just, Trump just went into the Bitcoin convention and gave a, decent speech, I guess.
Well, honestly, I didn't even know about that. So I don't know if I could have like a strong opinion on it. I'd say that like obviously everything in an election, not just an election year, but like the last few months before an election, it's all an attempt to get votes. I do think that there is there's like a massive realignment going on right now. And I do think that there are people like high up in the Democratic establishment who are starting to recognize that it's like, hey, we got to have some positions that are popular. Like everything we say can't be something that everyone hates, Like it can't just be like, we think your kids should be trans. That can't be our whole like campaign. And so that's an interesting, I just don't know enough about that specifically to know like how genuine that is. It's all, everything politicians say, you take with a grain of salt. But I do think that there is a group of people within the Democratic Party who are like, hey, we gotta like have like a few issues that are like, popular amongst people that we can run on, and then we can go do all the evil shit we want to do. So I don't have a good answer for that because I just don't know enough about it.
All right, last question from the bleachers.
Last question.
Hey, Dave. Big fan. First of all, I have a 2-year-old, one on the way, so you can respect.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Respect for him. I just, we're millennials, and like everyone at the table, all of our parents are boomers, and just seems like every boomer just throws their undying allegiance to Israel, like no matter what. And just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts, elaborate. It just seems like, it's a kind of a Christian view, but it seems like bad theology. Like, is this a psyop? Like, how does every single boomer just throw their undying allegiance to Israel?
Well, look, man, if you're talking about like, is the view that like that Jesus won't come back until the Jews control all of Israel, is that a psyop? 1,000%. Yes, that is. It's the most obvious psyop in the history of ops. But the thing is that the boomers, we live, even like for people my age, because like I'm 41, and so I'm like, I was around way before this time of the internet and all of this, and I remember the old order very, very well, but I didn't grow up in it my entire life. And so like boomers grew up in the world where it was the newspapers and the 3 networks, and that's where you got information from. And everything else was just something your crazy uncle's telling you, but those were the experts, And so look, the entire story of Israel was always, laid out for them as like just this, hey, like what, it's always the story I grew up with. It's like, I don't know, dude, the Jews got totally mistreated everywhere they were. And then they were like, well, can we just have this like little strip of land here and be our own nation? And it was a land without people for a people without a land, who could argue with that? Who would try to fight? There's a people who have just been totally like, they were genocided and mistreated and just totally oppressed. And then all they want was this little land where there are no people. Like, this was the official story. Like, I'm not exaggerating. That is the slogan. Like, this is it. And then they just went there to this land where there were no people. And they were like, we're going to start our little thing here. And then all these crazy Muslims just attacked them for going there. And don't they have a right to defend themselves against those people? And that's just so ingrained in boomers' heads. And if that was the real story, then it totally makes sense to have the feeling that they have. Like, yeah, fuck that. Like, they should defend themselves, you know. There's just some pesky details when you start actually, like, reading the history about it, where you're like, oh, none of that's true. Like, that's just, and, you know, so it's good that, like, I think younger people are much more aware of this. You know, today it's, you know, there's all these debates. I mean, I've done like a bunch of the like debates on Israel, and that's just me. I mean, there's been so many more than that. But even now, in like now, none of that can stand. But that is literally, like, that is what our parents grew up knowing of the history, because it was totally controlled, and that's the way it was presented. Like now, even when you have these debates, you know, whatever, when you have like, you know, whoever, like Benny Morris will be in a debate or something like that, or like that, whatever, that fucking Destiny guy or whatever, you know, like the most just full of shit, dishonest guy who doesn't believe any of the shit he's saying himself, but it's just like racing in some exercise to like, let me see if I can win these points and get over how bad I feel about whatever his personal life is. But even them, like, they don't, they can't pretend that's the story anymore. Even they have to admit what the real story is and then just constantly be making excuses for it, you know? Like, yes, all these people did get kicked out of their land, and yes, they have been occupied ever since, but it's justified because reasons. And like, kind of once you've already done that, it just gets very hard to defend, you know? It's like, I mean, like, this is not, maybe a little bit of a caricature, but not much of like what the argument is now. It's like, yes, Israel has been occupying these people since 1967, but they really don't want to, and they just had to. Like, that's kind of the argument, right? And you can, you know, human beings are incredible, and especially people who have like high verbal IQs, like that guy does have, undeniably. It takes a certain, you know, like talent to like rattle off the gish gallop shit, you know, and like rattle off 75 different things as fast as you can. But look, man, that's just, for the most part, it's like, how can you really even sell that story? You know, it really is like on the level of saying that, like, hey, we have slavery and we kind of want to abolish it, but we just can't. We have to enslave these people, and like, it really does suck, but we just got to keep it going. It's like, human beings are very good at rationalizing things and coming up with, you know, whatever the mental gymnastics necessary to justify something. But as soon as you give up on that boomer propaganda, you see it. It's like the floodgates are opened. You just can't. You just can't. And like, at a certain point, like, anyone who looks at that goes like, yeah, but you can't enslave people. Sorry. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not even saying, like, you don't have to be against Israel. You don't have to, like, be pro-Palestinian. But any reasonable person could look at it and go, hey, you got to let these people go. You're not allowed to do that, period. I don't care. I don't even care if there's, like, a group of them were real bad or a group of them killed a whole bunch of innocent people. You don't get to keep 5 million people captive forever and then fucking bitch and moan when they break out and do something to you. Sorry, can't do that. And so whatever the solution is, it's got to be, first and foremost, let these 5 million people go, you know? And so I think that's the big difference. And I would just say, you can't overestimate how much it was like, you know, when you talk about like our boomer parents, you know, the new historians, that's like the what they call the group of Israeli historians who started basically in the 80s. They got like a whole bunch of like declassified documents and started going through it. That's what Benny Morris blew up from, and a bunch of other like great historians. And before that, they just claimed none of it had happened. Before the 80s, the propaganda was none of that's real. There was no Nakba. No one was kicked out. They all voluntarily left, and the Jews were begging them to stay, but they insisted on leaving. That was the story, and people bought that, you know? Like, it's the same as, like, you know, the way you could control information in, you know, previous things, like, you know, ridiculous claims like we landed on the moon. Like, you used to be able to just get away with a lot of shit, but the whole story was that all of that was Arab propaganda, and that none of it happened, and then all the declassified documents came out, and now no one can really argue that anymore. So it's like a slow process, but it is, you know, those boomers also, they get like an emotional attachment to it, and it takes a while for them to ever wake up. But, you know, at least amongst the young people, I do think no one's really buying this bullshit anymore. Like, it's just, it is what it is. And that doesn't mean you have to jump over to be a reactionary shit. You don't, just because you hate feminism, you don't have to be Andrew Tate. You know, like, just because you hate this propaganda doesn't mean you have to go fuck the Jews or something. You know what I mean? Like, all that's stupid. And that really is just only helping the other side. Because that just, like, it's like, dude, I get it all the time on Twitter where I'll talk about something about how evil Benjamin Netanyahu is or the government is, and then you get, like, someone, like, replying to me, and it's like, yeah, because the fucking Jews control the thing. And you're like, you realize you're helping them, right? Like, you're not helping me. This just hurts me, that anyone on one of my, and then they get to go, look, your followers hate Jews. So, like, just let's not be retarded. Like, you don't have to hate Jews. You don't have to hate any group of people. But you can also go, hey, you gotta stop slaughtering innocent people there. That's not okay. Anyway, listen, man, I thank you so much for that. That was a great last question to go out on. Dude, I've had so much fun here in Nashville. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I really, really do appreciate it. I promise you guys I will be back here every year going forward. I love you guys so much. Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Blame the fire Bernstein, everybody. Gloves up for him. Have a good night, guys. Thank you, guys.